strange man by the name of Leland Gaunt, Max von Sydow, opens up a store in the small town of Castle Rock, Maine. But this isn't a normal store by any stretch of the imagination. This is a store that gives you your deepest desires in exchange for a small deed that will spread violence and chaos throughout the town. There's only one man who can stop it, Sheriff Alan Pangborn, Ed Harris, who slowly realizes there is more to Leland Gaunt than what he's letting on. I think it's safe to say that the most people know about this somewhat forgotten tale is the Rick and Morty episode, Something Wicked This Way Comes, which parodies the idea of needful things. However, we're not here to talk about once great adult cartoons. We're here to talk about Stephen King and another tale coming from the fictional little town of Castle Rock. Directed by the son of famed actor Charlton Heston, this movie kinda fails to be something truly interesting. I think it's safe to say that the best thing about this movie is Max von Sydow. He plays the perfect Satan-esque character. He has this certain warmness about him that makes you just trust him without worry, like in a grandfatherly sort of way. He knows so much about you, yet you don't question it. You just trust him and what he says, no matter how much doubt you have. Sato perfectly conveys the strange sort of manipulation of this warm grandfather to sinister demon. It was seriously a great performance. Everything else about the movie is just kinda meh. Nothing horrendous like a lot of the initial reviews of this movie say it is, but it's really weird at some points. Weird editing choices, weird music choices, and unintentional comedy is sprinkled throughout, as well as some stilted acting from some of the smaller characters. The main cast is fine, like Harris and Bedelia, who was also in Salem's Lot, but the kid who plays Brian Rusk didn't talk like a normal kid, and the chick who plays Wilma was overly cartoonish, along with J.T. Walsh's character. Amanda Plummer was fine, but overall the acting was just really hit and miss. I also feel that the tone is all over the place. Sometimes there's slower scenes that are really good and kind of creepy, then there's just these weird scenes you can't help but laugh at. It's got so many intriguing ideas and a great premise, but none of it was executed or conveyed properly. You have all these great themes of greed, corruption, manipulation, and depression all being controlled by this satanic puppeteer, yet it's only somewhat interesting. This was the first book King wrote after rehabilitating from his substance abuse problems, and you can see those ideas sprinkled throughout this story. This evil thing manipulating people with the promise of feel good things, when in reality, it does those things for a price, an evil price. That idea and premise is really interesting, but it's not conveyed as great as it should have been here. I thought the Dark Half handled its personal ideas a lot better than this did. While Saito and Harris are very good in their roles, especially Harris's monologue at the end of the film, everyone is a bit too cartoony to take seriously. Apparently, there's an extended TV cut that goes more into the citizens of Castle Rock, has many extended scenes, and is about 3.5 hours long. I think that cut would probably be better than what we got, but unfortunately, it hasn't been made available due to legal issues. Unless some guy recorded it back in the mid 90s on a VHS tape. Overall, it's a decent and somewhat intriguing story, but it's too cartoony, has very little depth, and only some good performances and some interesting themes that prevent it from being totally unwatchable. It's not horrendous like a lot of older reviews say it is, but it's worth watching maybe once, but overall, it's not a great King adaptation, especially for a book that seemed to be very personal for King. However, the climax was pretty great. I also wanted to talk about the comparisons between Ed Harris and Michael Rooker's versions of Alan Pangborn. It is a bit difficult, as I stated in both reviews that Pangborn in the Dark Half is a side character, while in Needful Things he is the protagonist. Ed Harris was really great in Needful Things despite being in a rather mediocre movie, while Michael Rooker was really good in a movie that was more evenly balanced in terms of how good the movie was. It would be easier to say Harris because he is one of the few good things in a bad movie, while Rooker is one of the many good things in a good movie. Tough, but in terms of what character I liked more, I'm gonna go with Rooker. I just liked his personality and demeanor a bit more than Harris. However, it's very close and Harris did do a pretty good job. I will say this though, in terms of Alan Pangborn's, in terms of relation to the hit show Castle Rock, I think it's safe to say that Scott Glenn's version of Alan Pangborn is more so in line with the Michael Rooker version. Just because he's a bit more cynical, a bit more serious, and a bit more senile, while Ed Harris's Alan Pangborn is a bit more I don't know, has that young guy feel. Even though he's pretty old in the movie, he just has that younger, bit brighter feel to him. I don't know. That's just my opinion. All three are great. I mean, if you have a chance to watch Castle Rock, it's actually really fucking good. Very slow, but really fucking good. Highly recommend it, but in terms of Alan Pangborn, all three did a really, really excellent job.